Okay, so now that we know how depth of field works and what you can do to control it in your camera, let's start exploring what it does and why you might want to use it. Well, depth of field is an incredibly powerful tool for the photographer because it allows you to direct attention wherever you want it in your image based on selective focus. The reason that works is that humans find it painful to try to focus on something that they can't actually focus. There's a little pain sensation in the optic nerve. If you don't believe that, try looking through someone else's prescription glasses. Try to focus on the world. See how long it is before you either get a blinding headache or nauseous. So our brain is going to look away from those areas that we can't focus. And by limiting or expanding the area of apparent focus, depth of field can help the viewer understand what the more important elements in your story are and how they relate to one another or how they don't relate, and how any of that relates to the rest of the image or not. Here's some examples to see how this works in practice. Here we have this wonderful spiral staircase. Deep depth of field from the closest thing you see in the camera all the way down to the ground level. If this didn't have that level of depth of field, if the foreground or down on the floor area were soft and out of focus, this shot wouldn't work. But because it is, the shot allows you to travel down this spiral along with the people that are already on it and move through its space pretty easily. So this is a good example of how deep depth of field can really work for you. Here's another one where linear perspective along this colonnade really helps direct your eye down the columns all the way to the opening at the far end of it. This shot, for other reasons, is a little unresolved. It would be nice if there were something down in that bright area that was there for us to look at. But the point is still that this helps move your eye through space, and you need to see all of it sharp. Here's an interesting variation on that. This uses what's called a Dutch tilt, which is when the horizon line is tilted a little for a dramatic purpose to create some tension in it. Do not do this with ocean horizons. You normally don't do it at all. But when it works, when it's done right, it can create some tension in a shot. And here, where you're drawn along the track back into the fog, you can wonder what's coming down this track at us. It really helps sell the story of the shot. But it needs to all be sharp. And for one last example, here, if the background on the other side of the river were soft, then this might look like just any forest scene, any kind of jungle-based scene. But because you can see the whole environment, you can look across the river and realize this isn't a jungle at all. This is some kind of urban environment with some water feature in it. So here, that depth of field helps explain what's really happening in this shot. And lastly, here's another staircase. This case, one with straight lines, not the spiral. But again, from the foreground that you can see down to the floor, everything is sharp. Without it, this would just be a mess. With it, it creates a really interesting abstract that you're having to try to look at and turn your head and figure out exactly how this works. It's a fascinating shot. But sometimes what you want to do is use a much narrower depth of field. Here, this selective focus makes it clear that the main subject is this person in the foreground with the cigarette. But we can see just enough of the background to start making us wonder what's happening. We're in a parking garage somewhere, a place that's pretty spooky to a lot of people, and there are a couple of characters that are undefined. Are they coming toward us? Are they walking away? Are they friendly? Are they hostile? What's going on in this shot? This quality of letting the background go out of focus, but maintain enough of it to see what's there, can really help sell the tension in this shot or help provide some environment for whatever is really important in your shot. Here's a shot where we moved in a little bit closer. The depth of field is a little bit shallower, but the background is still sharp enough that you can tell this flower, this poor old dandelion, is in a field of grass somewhere. It's not important whether that grass is in a park or whether it's on your front yard. It's just that it's in the grass somewhere is all that you need to know. But here, the background is so out of focus that it's become utterly irrelevant. It serves only to provide this color glow around the main subject, this flower, where the important parts are the shapes and patterns of the little petals in this flower head. Or you can move even closer, and now you're right on top of it. Even the specifics of the flower type are not important in this shot. What's important is the texture and the design, the water droplets on the little petals. So what does depth of field allow you to do? Well, it allows you to hide or reveal the larger location or environment that you're working in. It allows you to hide or reveal elements that limit or expand the data on your main subject. So you can either make it a little more mysterious or a little more known to the viewer. It forces the viewer to concentrate on those elements that you, the photographer, want them to concentrate on. And it can act as visual punctuation for your visual story. Here's the bottom line for you. You need to use depth of field carefully and purposefully to help tell your image's story. Learn the effects of aperture changes on all of your lenses, including the effects of refraction when your lens is wide open or stopped all the way down. You need to learn the different looks that are going to result from using various lens lengths and various focal distances and at different apertures. You need to be able to use those variations to achieve your vision for the image. Think of those parts like notes in a musical score. How you put them together create the chords that are going to be played. And finally, and most importantly, this is perhaps the most important visual tool you have. Use it and control it. Don't let the camera make these aesthetic decisions for you. You make them. You make it yours.